everybody. Welcome to the Fandom Post Radio Podcast. I am your engineer, Kate, and joining me this week is Brandon.
Yo.
Kestrel.
Hello.
And Kane.
Good evening.
We are here to talk about anime because much like the musicians on the Titanic, we have one job and that's what we're gonna do.
That's right. That's right.
Going down with this shit, baby.
And it is the winter 2025 season. Is that how this works?
That is how that works.
Yep.
So we have a lot of returning shows and some new stuff. But first we've got some news.
Yeah, so a few random pieces of news I happened to remember to put on the dock over the past month or two. So, as always, last episode that we actually talked about news, we talked about a piece of news that was immediately invalidated by the time the episode was released, which was the prospect of Kadokawa being purchased by Sony. And, you know, there was a fear that Sony would get 100% of them. They got 10% of them, which makes them the largest shareholder. And that was 20 million new shares for 50 billion yen. And yeah, we'll see how that affects anything. But yep, they got their mitts and everything.
Their mitts are in it, but I think at the most this prevented them from a hostile takeover by another different massive corporation someplace else.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, all they really wanted. Doesn't help the employees that were not happy with leadership situations, but hey. What are you going to do?
What do we expect at this point?
Yep.
Is there...
Right, they didn't get 100%.
Is there any glass half full to this?
They didn't get 100%, which was certainly the fear.
There we go, baby.
Yep.
10%.
That's my glass 90% full.
Yep.
Yeah. 10% majority is crazy to me, though. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of eggs in baskets.
Yes.
Their portfolio of things.
I just want to remind everyone that prior to this, the largest shareholder of Kadokawa was the guy who Miyazaki made cry for telling him that his AI animation was an insult to life itself.
Oh, you know.
So that guy's number 2 now.
Now he's got something new to cry about.
Yep.
As he fucking should be.
That's my glass half full.
Yeah, exactly. The AI guy is down at number 2. Yep, pick your poison. So do your AI. All right. Then we had Jump Festa, as we have at the end of every year. And I'm just going to read off like all the headlines associated with announcements from that, and then we can talk about anything that people are interested in talking about. So there's some more stuff about the next Jujutsu Kaisen season, Culling Game arc. Got some visuals for that. Confirmed that the previously announced second season of Hell's Paradise will not premiere until 2026.
Whoa.
And they also confirmed that it will be on Crunchyroll when that happens, in January, of course. They also gave a release date for the Spy Family third season, which will be October 2025. That will also be the same season that we get the final season of My Hero Academia. Also announced was, before that, next season actually, we're getting the spin-off My Hero Academia Vigilantes in an anime series. Also, the Chainsaw Man movie that was previously announced will get released in 2025, which was not confirmed before. Kaiju number 8 season 2 is going to be July of 2025. The voice of Frankie in One Piece, Kazuki Yao, has retired due to his age and health and not being able to sound like Frankie anymore. So
Not super.
Not very super, no. So that has been taken over by Subaru Kimura. He will be playing Frankie once they return to new material. And they also confirmed that the date for that will be April 6th when we get back to Egghead. Let's see, what else we got in here? Ton of stuff. The Gintama spin-off got a new trailer. Dandadan Season 2 was announced at the end of Season 1, as expected. The very anticlimactic end of Season 1. And that's going to be in summer, I believe, July. And that got a trailer as well. There's a Me and Roboco film coming. Let's see, anything else worth noting? The second season of Mission Yozakura Family is also going to be 2026. They didn't even give a season or month for that. Yeah, I think that's about it. Anything we want to touch upon in any of that?
That release time for well, the name just escaped me, but Hell's Paradise is much further out than I expected, considering when the first season aired, and then it took them a while to even announce they were doing a second one, so I guess this isn't that much of a surprise. I mean, I'm hoping that means it'll look good and not just like, we're gonna put that shit on the back burner.
Yeah, it's probably MAPPA is very busy with lots and lots of projects, so thankfully they are letting it have some time.
Yeah, because I really did enjoy that series a lot. Like, I thought its environment was really cool. I like the art style that it had going on and everything. I know it had some ups and downs for like animation quality or production value at times, and then some pacing problems as well. But I think for a new / original property or whatever, it had a lot going for it compared to a lot of the other things that come out every season. So
yeah, I think for like a weekly Shonen Jump manga with a Madhouse TV anime adaptation, it underperformed compared to what they were hoping for. But at least it did well enough that it's getting another season, so that's good.
Yeah, other than that, everything sounds about as expected for things, I guess.
Yep. Yeah, nothing too huge and revolutionary, really. Just all the manga that's gotten anime is gonna get more anime, and most of that was already announced.
The thing about the Roboco movie, I don't know. I read that for about 200 chapters, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna just like wane off of this. But it had an anime, I think, last year or the year before, and I just I don't think it was anywhere. So it's just strange to me. I keep seeing announcements for that, and I'm just like, nothing about the anime.
It must have been streamed. I didn't give a shit because I read the manga for like 2 panels. But yeah, let's see. Anime license.
Probably when I should have hopped off.
Yeah, Crunchyroll streamed it.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
I'm gonna use this as a segue to talk about something that's not news exactly, but kind of, that I was going to talk about when we talk about Sakamoto Days anime, but I'll just mention it here. So, kind of news is in the past couple weeks, the next 2 oldest Weekly Shonen Jump manga after One Piece both ended. So, we got the end of My Hero Academia last August, I think, and then Jujutsu Kaisen like September or something. So then it was Mission Yozakura Family, and that ended, I think, like 2 weeks ago, and then Undead Unluck was the next one after that. That ended last week. Wow. So, yeah, now it's just One Piece and a bunch of series from the 2020s.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm curious for people who are reading these other series, like, because the next longest one now, the next oldest one is the absurd gag comedy Me and Roboco.
That is extremely sad.
Yeah.
And that one is just like a parody of other Shonen Jump
exactly
manga.
Exactly. So the next like real kind of shonen one, even though it at least starts as mostly comedy as well, is Sakamoto Days. 2 weeks after its anime premiered. Yeah.
Which out of the like 10 or so Shonen Jump things I keep up with weekly,
Mhm.
that is one of the few that I'm like, this feels like just like a very Shonen Jump like series that like is
Okay.
a tried and true for them. There's like, but besides that, I don't know. I feel like they're
Yeah.
gonna have to like shake it up a bit. I really like Akane Banashi, which is like a Rakugo
Mhm.
story. That one I think once it gets an anime could do numbers. And then Kagurabachi is like the
Yeah.
other like big one that a lot of people put a lot of steam behind at the beginning, and it was kind of
Yeah.
shaky if it was gonna pan out. But I think that one's been really good too. But I mean, yeah, outside of that, like I don't really know what else is like they've had so many manga in the last 2 or 3 years that get maybe 10 to 15 chapters and then get the axe.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
they're in a
1 or
very
2
weird stage
volumes.
right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and do you think that Roboco or Sakamoto Days are still like they've got a lot ahead of them? Because I know previously when the other series were ending, we were like, yeah, well, Yozakura and Undead Unluck are both going to end pretty soon too, and they did. So, do you have any perspective on that?
I feel like Sakamoto Days is like they just started another major arc, and
Okay.
I don't see it really ending too soon. Whereas like Roboco is one of those that like it can go on forever, or it
Right.
can just suddenly disappear once it
Exactly.
really hits rock bottom ratings. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's really no saying. Whereas like something like My Hero, you're like, okay, we can see that it's building to something for years.
Right.
Or Jujutsu Kaisen, where similar thing, except it kind of ended very fast too. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They have to take a new approach or something. I don't know what's
I mean, it
gonna
kind
happen.
of feels like they are taking a new approach. Maybe they're being forced into it, but it kind of mirrors like how shonen anime, even if it's based on a long-running series, has kind of moved into the short seasons format, where it feels like it's more about just like getting short hits out there one after another than building these decades-long series like we used to have, with the
Yeah.
exception of One Piece, and maybe when One Piece ends, Shueisha will go under. But
Yeah,
until then,
really.
yeah.
No, that makes sense. It's just like a different landscape now.
Yeah.
It's hard to build something for longevity because like if you start your first 5 chapters or so really trying to like world build, but like people aren't immediately hooked, like they're gonna can you before you can even set up
Yeah.
your long series. So
Right.
it really isn't in the antidote for how to make a Shonen Jump hit right now.
And I would like to believe or hope that authors are just getting to end series on their own terms instead of editors forcing them to drag them out for years and hundreds of chapters because they're successful and then making them cancel it when they're not. So hopefully the fact that, Demon Slayer, My Hero, Jujutsu Kaisen all ended when they were huge hits bodes well for that theory. I don't know though.
We shall see.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
feel
it'll
like
be
they
interesting
do
to see if
need.
they ever get another like real long hit because
Yeah.
we're all in the 2020s after One Piece now.
They do really need another big hit. And you know what? We're going to get to it when we talk about Sakamoto Days and what I think could have been. But
Okay.
now I'm just thinking, all right, let's hope Kagurabachi gets the anime we all wanted to get.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that was like a meme from the launch of Chapter 1 that it was like the next big jump hit. And people were like making fake MAPPA anime trailers from like the first week that the manga launched.
And within a week of that, people were saying like, overrated, it's getting axed right away.
Yeah.
Like, it was the most insane conversation.
It went through the entire life cycle in its first week.
Yeah. I was in Japan when that first chapter dropped, so I have the cover page jump from that, but
Nice.
yeah, it was a meme of a time.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it certainly has the makings to be a hit when they make the anime. So, but yeah, it doesn't mean that it's going to be a long series because many hits have not.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of manga, yeah, so there's this company called Crunchyroll, right? You might have heard of them. And they stream a lot of anime, and they used to have a manga service. And then they stopped paying attention to it. And they never really paid attention to it, but they killed it off. And they had another manga service, and they never really paid attention to it, but then they like really stopped paying attention to it, and then they killed it off a few months ago. And now Crunchyroll is announcing very exciting news. They are going to launch a manga service.
Whoa. I remember trying to use that manga service for a little while, and it was just like, oh, you want to read Sailor Moon? Well, you can read Sailor Moon chapters 36 and 42.
Yes, they had very limited licenses.
Yeah,
because it was like the stuff that wasn't published, or like they started simulpubbing some series from chapter 100 and whatever and never went back. And
yeah, they had Kodansha's licenses for a while, and they were the ones putting that out, and then Kodansha pulled them all because they had their own service, and
which is horrible because you have to fucking gotcha and do all the microtransaction bullshit.
It wasn't great on Crunchyroll, but Kodansha's bad. So
it was fine on Crunchyroll in terms of like the service. Like, okay, you pay for a subscription and you read manga. Like, you don't play games to try to get fucking coins or whatever, gems, to read like the first page of a chapter. I read like Orange when that was running. I read A Silent Voice on there. I read Grand Blue until they pulled that. I read Space Brothers until they pulled that. Those were both disappointments for sure, and I'm not going to K-manga, so yeah. We'll see what this new one is and why it's so much better than the last times they tried and failed and stopped caring and killed it.
So they didn't like announce any licenses with the announcement of it?
No.
That's pretty weak. Okay. I don't know how you're going to get me enticed, but okay.
Yep. This is the...
I said they're just going to collect the floor sweepings from the other apps.
Basically.
Yeah. The only thing they announced is that it will be a premium add-on, so you get to pay more for whatever they end up giving you.
Lame.
Hooray. Yeah. And then last bit of news, less lame. Our friends at Discotech, they had another live stream. They announced a bunch of stuff, as they tend to do. A big variety of anime, live action, some tokusatsu stuff, a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of American cartoons, etc. So some highlights here. Highlight especially for our fearless leader, Chris, Hirotsuki Doji. The famous hentai Hirotsuki Doji. They put 9 months of work into its restoration.
That is silly. That's just silly.
It is an important piece of history you got there. They became the 4th licensor of the Higurashi anime, the original one. They got Deers, Cyborg 009 versus Devilman, Space Adventure Cobra, the movie, the manga entertainment dub. They're doing a special disc of just that version. They got Angel Heart, the City Hunter spinoff. Osamatsu-kun, they already had streaming on Crunchyroll. Now it's getting a Blu-ray release. They got Flame of Rekka. And then, like I said, they got a lot of live action stuff, and some of the manga adaptations in that lineup include the 2014 Lupin III, Tomorrow's Joe, which is, getting its day in the limelight 60 years later.
Yeah, easily the MVP announcement.
They had previously also released the 2 movie compilations of the 2 anime series. But as we learned recently, Crunchyroll has in fact been sitting on the entire anime series, both seasons, for years, and just finally put it up alongside Kodansha finally releasing the manga for the first time. So, yep, big times for Joe. It's today's Joe, you could say. Let's see what else we got on this live action adaptations. We got both Nana live action movies, and then the final Hana Yori Dango, which is a sequel to the Japanese live action TV series of Hana Yori Dango, not to be confused with the Korean live action TV series. Yeah. So those were a few of their announcements.
I gotta say, I'm actually high key excited for Discotheque's. They're doing MXC, which I was a big fan of as a kid.
Yeah.
They are?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I think it was already listed on their site when I was looking the other day too.
Yeah, it might be out already. It was.
Yeah.
I think it's
They
like
announced at Otakon.
it's like a second set, I think.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I think they're doing like 2 sets of them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That explains that then.
I mean, so I'm friends with Justin now, right? So so we I knew about some of these beforehand anyway, but and he also has an AnimeGo live stream coming up. So check that out as well for the stuff he licensed. But anyway, through him I met another friend, Andrew, who does like video production stuff and animation and art and stuff. And through Justin, he got to work on some Discotheque stuff and some AnimeGo stuff. So he was, he stayed at my house during Anime Expo, and we spent all day at the con. And then instead of like sleeping at night, he was furiously subtitling MXC.
Oh my goodness!
Subtitling every fucking word that those jokers were speaking. So
that's diabolical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I knew about that one, because I was like, wait, Discotheque on MXC? What?
Subbing so many like awfully out of pocket Guy Ledouche quotes.
Yep.
I'm just being very much cancelable horny.
Very early 2000s problematic Spike TV humor.
Yeah. Oh man, that's amazing.
Now that they have MXC, the next thing that'd be on my wish list, but I have no idea what the license situation would ever look like, is fucking Game Center CX. If they could get that
good luck with that. I don't know.
It's obviously a Japanese show, but it's just a guy who plays some of the hardest like retro games, and they lock him in an office until he beats it. Essentially,
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he'll go to like arcades and stuff for little host segments and play the games there and talk to the people who kind of go there. And it has like a comedy edge to it because he's so bad at most of them. It aired on G4 TV for a little while called Retro Game Master. Okay. And they released a couple episodes on DVD from that era, but the show's been on for I want to say like 26 or 27 seasons. It's been on since at least the Nintendo DS was brand new.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's November 4th, 2003 to present is the run of this show.
Wow.
Yep, still going. The guy's still doing it.
That's crazy.
Cool.
So, I
if anyone's going to release it, it'll be Discotheque, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's hard to determine how you would even go about doing it, because I don't even think they release it on DVD over in Japan, really. Like, the most you can do over here in the United States is there are people who rip the Japanese broadcasts and then fan sub them and then put them up on a website so you can watch them, because there's just no other way.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be a cool license if they got it.
It would, for sure.
Yeah,
Tell Justin.
Way back in 2000.
Tell Justin.
Justin does not license for Discotheque. Selby licenses for Discotheque. If you want something from AnimeGo, then you can talk to Justin. He now licenses stuff. You can talk to him about AnimeGo. However, he's not going to fucking license that. He will license old anime that he likes for AnimeGo and obscure indie live action movies that he likes for Whole Grain Pictures. That's the best you're going to get.
Oh, I have a piece of news that I don't think is on the news doc. Double check.
That was all my news, so go for it.
All right. Seven Seas license rescued the 12 Kingdoms novel series.
Right, yeah.
And they will be releasing the entire thing in the order that the original author prefers. It'll have a new translation, and presumably the artwork will be kept intact. And I'm stoked. Finally, we get the whole story, because the anime didn't, ended early.
Yep.
and didn't adapt, like left a huge hanging plot thread, which took books to resolve that never got animated. So I'm very excited.
I was just thinking I need another gargantuan series to start.
I mean, they're novels. They don't take very long. They're not like, colossal, unwieldy epics. So very doable. 12 Kingdoms was great. It's isekai before isekai became isekai. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's when it was girl power fantasy instead of boy power fantasy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, is it before or after Escaflowne?
Contemporary? I don't know. Wait.
Yeah, similar timeline, right?
Yeah, I think they're
90s.
around.
Yeah, because I'm no isekai scholar, but I always figured Escaflowne was one of the first, like, at least popular.
The novels predate Escaflowne by a decent chunk.
Yeah, a few years.
Yeah, the novels began in 92. So it's more contemporary with Magic Knight Rayearth than Escaflowne.
No, I think we should have like a guest episode where we have like an isekai expert, someone that's like a professor at a university that teaches an isekai course.
You know there's one out there.
I know there's one.
I'm taking it right now.
I was a professor at an isekai course, but then I got transported into another world and had to teach about isekai in terms of actual Japan to people from another world.
Anyway.
Coming this spring.
That was the appropriate title length.
The first volume of the 12 Kingdoms re-release is coming out in July. I will be there.
Cool.
Nice.
Exciting.
What we got.
All right. Well, since that's it for the news, I guess we can slide on into talking about the new season of anime. And we got a couple spicy ones here, which is nice because for me personally, this is a relatively low-firing season, so to speak, compared to at least a couple of the previous ones. But luckily, we have the far superior medical mystery show back this season, and that is the Apothecary Diaries, which I believe, Kestrel, you're watching, I'm watching. Kate, you're watching as well? Yes?
I am watching and reviewing, yes.
And then Bran, are you? I can't remember.
I am no watching.
Well,
I should have got on that. I know.
Time to leave. But yeah, it's picking right back up where it left off. I'm really enjoying it, and so is Emily so far. I can't help but keep like constantly comparing it to Ameko MD, which doesn't help Ameko MD at all this season either, because I mean at their core they're both kind of like medical mystery shows with a female protagonist that's super smart, and Mao Mao just trounces all over anyone from that show. But yeah, it's been really good so far. I gotta say though, just like I probably said this during our initial reviews of this when it first aired, but I do love like the mystery and the poisoning parts, but I just like being a part of the castle tea, like like all the other stuff going on between all of the concubines and the ladies in waiting and all this like drama and stuff. Plus, I forgot just how many women are in this whole like compound they got going on. Because I think Mao Mao somewhere in the last episode she said, I forgot there's 2,000 women here. Because you're so used to just seeing those couple like Gyokyo and Li Hua and those folks. So you forget that there's like whole other levels of concubines that are just kind of doing their thing. But it is really nice. I also liked how the first episode started with Mao Mao trying to get a side hustle going again. Like she's great. Like her a lot. Kestrel, what do you think?
I agree. Mao Mao is the best.
Yep.
Yeah, she always gets to shine. the first episode of the season was very good for cat lovers.
Yeah, it was. I
very
chuckled
cute.
at the gag.
Yeah.
It's a good gag.
Yeah. No, it's been very funny, very charming, still very high production quality.
Oh, for sure.
It was only off for, less than a year, but it's right back to it. Look great, sounds great. Like I've mentioned many times, it has 3 of my favorite composers doing the music, so that's always awesome to hear. Yeah, I mean, I've read a few volumes ahead of where we're at in the manga adaptation of the novels. So, I know everything that's happened so far, and I know some of the stuff that's coming up, and I'm excited for it. But yeah, this is definitely the medium that I enjoyed in the most, and I think it's still firing on all cylinders, so very pleased.
Yeah, I'm having the conflict of I could pick up the 3rd novel, which would cover the whole first half of the season that they're doing, And I'm like, but do I want to spoil myself for the
Exactly.
anime?
Yeah. It in my case, I had read many volumes of the manga before there was even an anime announced at all. So I was like, okay, well, I'm already in this position. I might as well continue. But like for Christmas, Caitlin got me a bunch of volumes of Frieren, and so I read right up to where the anime covers, and then I was sitting there thinking about it for a while, and I'm like, no, I'll wait. I got to experience this first in the anime. Got to make it as fresh as possible. So I go both ways. That's what I did with Attack on Titan as well. Like I had the last volumes for a while, but I waited until the night that the final aired. Not to be confused with the final, which is coming to theaters next month.
Yeah, important distinction to make.
Yeah. But yeah, then I read the last few chapters after that aired. So yeah, good stuff. Great stuff. Brandon should watch it.
Yeah.
Yes, we should.
I really enjoy the direction of Mao Mao and Jinchi's relationship too, and how he's still kind of like a silly character in the 2nd season, but he's clearly got a lot more like serious palace stuff going on. And it is a really good foil for Mao Mao, especially given how she has no feelings towards him whatsoever, despite what he tries to do, but then he gets off on it. So that's a joke that's never going to get old for me, I don't think.
So good.
You always want what you can't have.
Yeah, I guess what I'm still so interested in learning about him too, because the ending of the 1st season where it's like he has this kind of secret government agency like background thing going on, and it turns out his playfulness is partially a mask, so people kind of not underestimate him, but don't take him as seriously, even given the spot he has in the hierarchy of the empire. So I think he's just a really like well written and thought out character up to this point. And the comedic timing of his character is also really good too.
Oh, there's been some great just reactions to everything going on so far this season already, and I'm like, oh, this is excellent stuff.
Yeah, great direction with the comic timing for sure.
Like when
and I really like
she gets
how
all the mushrooms in the basket, and then she's trying. Mama's trying to justify keeping them, and Jinchi's face just keeps getting more disgusted by the idea.
She's like, dead people mushrooms. Think about the consequences of dead people. But he's like, I'm taking this away from you. She's like, no, my mushrooms.
Confiscated.
Yeah.
Totally confiscated.
Yeah, I really liked how they ended the 1st season with what they did with their relationship. Because one, the way that it ties into like the very beginning of the 1st opening, and also just comparing it back, rereading like that chapter in the manga adaptation at least was just a very kind of nothing throwaway little chapter in the middle of a volume, and the way that they elevated it to like this major climax in their relationship was impressive. So yeah, they're definitely going all out with the adaptation.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the end of the first season, 2nd core, the animation had kind of started dropping off a little bit. Mostly because I don't know, there was a lot of talking and not. I mean, there was some action at some point, but I remember it not looking quite as good as it does at the beginning of this season. So I don't know if they just brought it back up or
I don't remember that specifically. Like, it's a very talky show. Like, not a lot of action.
I know.
So, yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm just hallucinating.
Well, the first Blu-ray is on its way to me, so maybe I will give it another look.
Nice.
I should buy this.
Brandon, you should definitely scoop this one up.
Yeah.
It's good from a multitude of perspectives.
I really should have when I first heard it was getting good, which was like right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we were so spoiled those 2 seasons because we had Freerun and Apothecary Diaries and a bunch of other good shows both seasons. So that was just insane.
That's true. Some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really was a lot to work through, so I don't blame anyone for missing it in particular. But yeah, definitely anyone go back and scoop this up if you haven't started watching it, because it's got its bona fides in order. But yeah, so Kate, you said you were watching and reviewing this and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a question for both you and Kestrel, I suppose, at the same time, because I don't know, like, do we know how much of this we're getting? Not at this point in time, but where we're even at in the story. I don't know if the manga is about to be ending or anything like that. It feels like it's one of those that could just go on forever and ever and ever.
The light novel series is still running?
Yeah, I think so.
The manga is lagging behind that. And we're on volume 3.
Of the novels?
Of the novels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the novels are up to, it looks like 15 came out last year. Shit. So plenty of material to work through.
Yeah, talk about it. Well, when you have potentially 2,000 murder victims that you can do stuff with.
Yep.
Didn't
I think we're on chapter 9 of 14 of the manga, just to put that.
I was just gonna say, I forgot which one it was, the artist or the writer that got in trouble for tax stuff, but they like apologized to the government and were like, I didn't know what I was doing, I messed up, and now they're good, right? For what I've heard.
Was that the artist of the manga series?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know, there's so many of these people that get in trouble for that.
I know.
Theirs sounded wholesome though, compared to some other people's. They were like, I seriously just like messed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's funny because as an American, we're like, how the fuck do you mess that up? But then it's like, I guess in Japan, they just take the taxes out automatically unless you are like making like insane money off of one of these situations. And then usually people have, accountants deal with that shit for them. And I guess a lot of people find themselves not understanding what they require, that shit just doesn't get taken out and taken away. Government. Imagine having a functioning government. I know. Amazing.
So yeah, anyway, this season, like the last, even though it was off for less than a year, will also run for 2 consecutive course. So
nice.
Wow.
I'm gonna be at about 50 episodes of Mao Mao in a few months.
Damn, I'm gonna be hella behind.
Hey, that's only going to cover 4 volumes of the light novel series.
Exactly.
This could conceptually run forever, and I'd be perfectly okay with that.
I guess it's around a novel a core, so we could get like 8, 9, 10 2-core seasons out of this eventually, depending on how long the novels continue to run.
Yeah, so there you go. If you start now, you'll be just fine. And I mean like right now.
Hey, if people can catch up on One Piece, you could catch up on anything.
Very true.
That's fair. That is an argument that can be held against me now.
You read all of One Piece in a few months.
Yeah.
Oof. You just
That
bury
was
yourself.
I was
We-
built different then, okay?
that was like, well,
It was
okay.
not long ago, man.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I guess technically it was what 2022.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is still in like the 20s of episodes, so I think you'll be okay.
True.
That was the locked in year.
It really was.
Alrighty. Well, I think we can then move on to something that Bran is watching, and we can stop harassing him, at least for a little bit. I'll probably still throw a few more digs in there just because, but yeah,
Don't
let's.
worry. This show is going to be a dig at me personally, anyways.
Let's move on, and we can talk a little bit about what is supposed to be the next big hit, as we were touching on briefly in the early stages of the episode. And that is one Sakamoto Days. So, Bran, I know you're reading it.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading it, but I've fallen behind probably by a good 15 or so chapters. I just haven't gotten around to it. But I'm obviously way ahead of where the anime is at this point. So this will be one of the few, if not the first, like anime that I've watched while knowing what the source material was like.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting experience. And then
Yeah. It's a bit of whiplash once you're like deep in and then you watch from the beginning and you're like, oh yeah, like the show was like pretty comedy centric at the beginning compared to like where it's at now.
yeah, it as I feel shows like that typically go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always can start jokey and then eventually like world building and power scaling and stakes go up and then the comedy all but dries up. So that is a thing. I don't have a particular feeling one way or the other about the comedy kind of going away. I don't think it was amazing.
Yeah.
In the first place, so I wasn't crying over it leaving. But yeah,
No.
I want to hear what you think about these first couple episodes, Brian, because it sounds like there's a little bit of disappointment.
A little bit. I mean, it is tough when I have such high expectations for it because I do not say it lightly that I think it is like it is the best action series in Jump right now. It is like far and away the like best paneling and like just like the fights are all so interesting and like everyone can be a badass at any time, whether they're just like a brand new villain or like one of your favorite characters. They can always do something new and cool. And I like too that it's you mentioned how like, you know, these shows they drop their act and then they start just power creeping and it gets like it's like the show gets too big for its britches. But I never feel like this show is ramping up in a way that it couldn't have done from the beginning, because it really is just like, how can we just make this fight more creative rather than how do we make these characters more powerful? Which, to be fair, like the main villain has like a weird power that is making him seem kind of OP. But aside from that, yeah, I agree that the show being kind of more lighthearted at the front end doesn't feel like that's it. It didn't feel like it was intended to be like a gag manga all the way through, and I think it's fine that it transitions more towards the action because that is what its strong suit is.
Yeah, 100%. That's what it's always been. Yeah,
and that is the unfortunate part about this being a TMS show, is that I don't know if I've ever watched something from them that has, you know, blown me away. And
Fruits Basket.
Okay, but one, I haven't watched, but two, like I don't know how animation and like dependent.
Yeah, it's not an action show.
Yeah, so like that's the thing, is like I'm sure Fruits Basket looks pretty, and I think Sakamoto Days in general doesn't look terrible. I think the art design and the colors and everything like pop really nicely, and the show looks nice, but it's hard when you think this is supposed to be that next level Shonen Jump adaptation, and even a show that didn't get a lot of buzz around it, like Undead Unluck, very consistently had amazing animation in it, and that show just got buried on Hulu. So like, I feel like this one being on Netflix and like, in my opinion, being like one of the forefronts for like what Shonen Jump is going to be after all the big ones are gone. It just feels like they didn't put all their eggs in this basket, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, it was one of the main concerns I had going into the show, really, was there's one thing they really have to do to get it right, and that's just pour as much money into the action scenes as they possibly can. But my main concern is just the manga is nothing but action scenes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, how much can they actually do when there are multiple chapters that are nothing but action scenes, and then there's just like 1 or 2 panels of a break, and then they'll just go right back to another action scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was just thinking they're gonna have to, something's got to give eventually. Like, I know there are shows out there that have great animation all throughout, but there tends to be maybe more
like setup moments.
Yeah,
and like,
setup moments, placement, some interpersonal drama to set up the stakes of the battle. But man, Sakamoto Days is just nonstop, 0 to 60. You get introduced to the characters, and then they're immediately trying to get killed by another hitman or something.
Yeah. To the show's credit, it's not in like train wreck territory. It's not at all a bad looking show. Like
it's not Uzumaki.
It's not. No, and it's like that's the thing. I'm talking very critically because I have very high hopes for this show, but it doesn't. It's not poorly animated. It's just not super well animated, which is maybe to my own fault for expecting so much. One thing I will say is that these early parts of the story, which I really forgot how kind of like laid back they are in terms of just like the stakes, but also I really feel like the show still hasn't gotten to a point that I fell in love with it. I will say, like, one of my very first like, oh, this is gonna be like a big series moments was that fight on the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Which I thought looked fine, but like there were so many like cool full page spreads during that fight that I was like, oh, this Suzuki, the artist, is like, this man's trying to make some crazy looking fight scenes. And he will continue to do that, as you will see as we watch. But the show still hasn't really given you its full identity yet, because I didn't remember that like there were so many like one-off kind of goofy assassins at the beginning, like, oh, I'm the dude I'm gonna clean you up, and he's like dressed like a janitor. Like that's very much in like slapstick territory. But I feel like
there's a lot of Saturday morning cartoon kind of feeling.
It has that energy for sure. But I feel like once we get to like the main assassin organizations get introduced and all the like actual bad guys start showing up, like one after another, like the coolest character design you've ever seen, and then like the next person that shows up is even cooler than them. Yeah, I feel like this show still, that's the thing, we're like 3 episodes in because Netflix is on a week behind or 2 schedule.
Well, Netflix is on the Japanese broadcast schedule. Netflix Japan is a week ahead of Japanese broadcast.
Oh, that's interesting. But anyways, I feel like I'm talking very critically, but the show still barely has its legs under it, and we'll see where it's at by the end of the season, because I really do think that this show can be so much more, and it's shown moments of hype that I'm looking forward to more of that. But yeah, I just have to calm down. I just gotta calm down a little bit, calm my expectations a bit.
Yeah, I think the area that I noticed the most that they were sort of, I don't want to say cutting corners, because yeah, it's a show that's really early in its infancy here, and it is good, all things considered, is a lot of the impacts aren't animated. So Sakamoto punches someone or hits something with something really hard, and you just get like a loud a base hit and then sort of just a freeze frame of the impact. You don't see all of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I know that's partially meant to be like, that's how fast he is. But I always like it when, kind of in the first bit of that fight versus Son-hee and Bacho, where Sakamoto gets kicked in the face and you see it in slow motion, so his face looks like bread dough. Like, animating the impacts of punches and kicks and stuff is what really makes the fight seem real. I mean, it's not all that dissimilar from like standard action kung fu movies. Like, people love the like 90s Hong Kong action movies, like A Better Tomorrow and Hard Boiled and all that shit, or fucking The Raid or The Raid 2, and it's because they film and show the actual impacts, so you see a person get hit over and over again rather than like quick cuts away or something like that. And I think that translates to action anime in a very similar fashion. So that part is sometimes like, it disappoints me a little bit, where it's just like you could show him punching this guy rather than it's so quick and it's a snap cut away from him the second that he hits something. But yeah, we have so many cool characters, and maybe they're just trying to save up in these early battles and stuff before you start getting to the real meat and potatoes of it all.
Yeah. Really quickly on what you said about like the impacts and stuff, I think a similar issue that the anime is going to have, just because the translation from manga to anime, there are certain techniques that are harder to pull off when you don't just have those like snap cut from panel to another. There's lots of sleight of hand things that happen in this show that's so focused on like pro assassins. And one that I already noticed that was a kind of a weird way to interpret it through the anime was Nagumo showing up in episode 3 as like a double of Sakamoto. And when he like undisguises himself, they just kind of did like a weird like blurring effect that kind of just like, and then he's him instead of it being like a cutaway or some other kind of, it was just like a very weird effect to show how he changed, which makes me think like that's something that you don't ever know when you're reading the manga, is like Nagumo is like a master of disguise, but they never really show you his hand on how he does it.
Yeah, it always happens off screen.
Yeah, and the way that they just made him kind of like Gaussian blur for half a second, I was like, wait, what just happened? Like, what? In my mind, I can't comprehend that he just kind of like did that. So that's one thing that I think the show is also going to struggle with a bit, in just because of the translation from manga to anime. So I'm interested to see how they handle some other interesting techniques as we go along.
They should have done that smooth Okarun transformation.
Yes.
His body just kind of morphs.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like I'm trashing on the show, but like I'm still enjoying it. Very much still enjoying it.
Yeah, I like how they animate a lot of the Sakamoto killing Shin in his mind over and over again.
Yeah.
And they make sure to put in the sloppy, weird sound effects when he's like breaking his neck or whatever, so it sounds visceral enough, which is nice. A nice little touch.
He doesn't speak very much, but like Sugita is one of my favorite voice actors, so like him as Sakamoto is like, feels like a dream come true for me. But I feel like the voice cast so far has been very good. I feel like Hanai Natsuki also as Nagumo feels like the perfect pick. Yeah, I guess not to keep kicking a dead horse, but I know a lot of people didn't really like the OP animation, and yeah, it is pretty whack. It really not much to show for such an like an action heavy show. It's like a pretty static opening in a lot of shots. So yeah.
Kestra, what are you thinking of the show as someone who hasn't read the manga?
Yeah, so I have a very different perspective because, I read the first chapter when it first came out, and I was like, yeah, that's all right. I don't need this. And then, like, I think it was probably the first time was the one time that I met Bran for a few hours, and he mentioned something about, like, yeah, I think this is going to be, like, the next big Shonen Jump action hit when it gets an anime. I'm really excited. And in my mind, I was just like, wait, the, like, convenience store John Wick gag comic?
Yeah.
That's just going to be a big action hit? What? So, yeah, I was very surprised to hear that it completely dropped its comedy, because from chapter 1, that felt like its point, kind of. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that progresses. But I am reviewing the show. I am kind of noting it as dropping in production quality with each successive episode so far from the first 3, which is unfortunate to see, especially if action is going to be its main selling point. And, you know, 3 episode is kind of where you try to put all of your flashiest scenes to get people on board. So if it's already going downhill in those 3 episodes, then it doesn't bode super well. But yeah, I mean, I do see kind of its potential story-wise and action-wise if it pulls together the production from experiencing a little more of the story so far. And yeah, I agree. Solid voice cast for sure. I think it's got a lot going for it. And it is a little weird that, you know, Netflix is kind of making it this big thing, but doesn't seem like it got that much in terms of like solid resources behind it. Because it already has like the second core planned after a 3-month break and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't feel like it should be the kind of production that's like lagging behind and they're like animating it the week of. But I don't know exactly what's going on there. I'll also mention that as of, when was I in Hollywood? 2 days ago, there's a big Sakamoto Days billboard in the middle of Hollywood.
Whoa.
Yep.
Nice. What does it look like?
Okay.
It's one of the pieces of key art. I'll try to take a picture the next time we're over there.
I hope it's Big Tubby Sakamoto laying on his side.
Yeah, with like a popsicle or something.
Yeah.
It's got like Shin in the forefront. I'll try to find it. I think it's like the main key art.
I get it. He's like the pretty boy.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes. And I can see why people are disappointed. Like I said, I'm surprised that it turns into such a serious action-heavy series in the first place. But given that, and given kind of the pattern of, you know, those big popular Jump series getting really lavish animations, it's a bummer to see that this one doesn't seem to be like quite on par so far.
Yeah. One thing I will say about the comedic aspect of it, while it definitely goes on the back burner, it doesn't like disappear. It just is more like, it's just more like the characters bring levity to the serious things taking place. Like, most of the assassins are just very quirky in their own right. And like, while they're fighting each other and definitely trying to kill each other, they're just like thinking like, oh, what am I going to have for dinner today? Or like other random things. And it's also one of those shows. Yeah, it's one of those shows too where like the pedestrians never feel like they're like in imminent danger. Like all this shit's happening around them and they're just like, oh, okay. Like, I wonder what that just was. So while it does get more serious and action oriented, the stakes for at least a little while don't feel like, you know, this is some big like, oh, people are getting killed and we need like things getting real serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's one of my favorite ongoing. I don't know if it's really a gag, but there is like ads in the newspaper for different hitman schools, and it's something that people like grow up wanting to become and tell their parents about. Like it's a legitimate career field in this universe. It's not some shady underground business. It's just like, no, we have big campuses for our schools and we do ads in, you know, newspaper and websites and all that shit. So I did chuckle at that in the manga whenever it comes up and someone's like, "Oh, there's an ad that someone needs a freelance hitman."
Yeah, hearing about how it kind of progresses makes me think about like Reborn, because that was another one where the beginning of the manga was like, this is just a straight gag manga, and then it like totally turns into this big shonen lore, action heavy, super cool, everyone's a badass, power fighting, blah blah blah. So I don't know if it's similar to that trajectory, but every time I'm like, wait, really? From the way it started, I kind of think back on Reborn. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, at this point I just want to reserve myself until more of it's out because I have faith in it because I love the source material so much. So we shall see.
Still have high hopes for it. Like, I don't know if it'll be the next huge thing, but I'm okay as long as it stays good. Like,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need it to be the second coming or anything.
That's true. If we can avoid like Jujutsu Kaisen fans dogpiling it, maybe that's for the better.
You don't want it to become too successful. You don't want those fans as part of your fandom.
Yeah, exactly. A teeter on the edge.
Which is funny because I would never even compare these two shows together.
No.
For the most part, like, their tones and everything are so wildly different that the only thing they have in common is there's action.
Guy punches other guy.
Yeah, people punch and kick each other and sometimes have cool powers.
Isn't that just every Shonen Jump series?
It's like, wait a second.
Hey, wait a minute.
I think there's at least 2 other shows we're going to talk about like that today.
Alrighty, well, speaking of other shows about punching and kicking things, I think we can move on to the other big one that I think also recently had a theater release to complement this season, and that's the new Solo Leveling that's out. So this is a show that I just really couldn't get into too much, but I know, Bran, you like it, and Kestrel as well, so I'll let you two kind of go at it, but I will tell you that everyone at my work likes it, and for once, I feel like an anime outcast, even though I watch the most out of all of them. But man, they fucking love Solo Leveling. It's
yeah,
nuts.
so Bran, why do you hate it?
It's not that I hate it. It's like the opposite of what I have for Sakamoto Days, where it's like, I heard that this is like the best manhwa there is. This is like the one you need to read if you're trying to get into a manhwa. And the first season aired, and I was like, okay, so it's just a generic power fantasy, like video game oriented, thing. And to be fair, show looks really good and sounds really good and all that. So like, I enjoy watching it for the most part. I just like can't really buy into caring too much about it. So I don't hate it. But I guess I kind of am a hater at the same time because I'm talking.
It sounds like you hate it.
Shit.
You're just mad that Sakamoto Days doesn't look like Solo Leveling.
I really do watch them back to back, and I like shake my fist. I Arthur fist, and I just like, why?
That's right. They're both Saturday shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
It should have been me.
Because this season of Solo Leveling has very consistently had good animation.
It's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah. I will say this show does have a tendency to like lull me in with like eye-rolling character developments or plot developments, and then it'll do something else, and I'm like, oh, okay. So we're not gonna just do that. So that's nice. So when the last season ended and they introduced the dude that's like this douchebag S-rank American hunter, and he's like, I'm gonna avenge my brother who that Jinwoo guy killed, or Sunwoo, and it's like, oh great, so this is a big baddie. And like they show him a few more like in the first episode or two, and I'm like, oh great, this is this is the big baddie we have to follow for this season. Like he's already like awful. But then they kind of sidestep him, and I was like, okay, we're gonna build something else. I like that. So the show's keeping me on my toes. I appreciate it for that.
Yeah, I feel like it's got some intriguing ideas in every little story beat, where it goes a little bit outside of the box and reveals a little bit more about the mystery, or adds a little bit more to the mystery, adds some more questions to ask. And I think that, there's a lot of original ideas in the very formulaic foundation of it. And I don't know if you've noticed, they've dropped like probably one hint per episode or so this season, but we are heading towards the Chimera Ant arc of Solo Leveling. And, it is very much the Chimera Ant arc.
That's interesting. Yeah, I am interested that it does feel like it's finally kind of expanding outside of itself, because it has just been so much of just like Jinwoo's gonna go train today. He's gonna go kill like 1,000 demons. Like, wow, new little weapon, new little skill, great. But it is nice that we're starting to add the outside elements, and they've mentioned I mean, they literally, the last episode, you meet the Hunter Association president, who I'm like, this guy looks oddly familiar. But yeah, so I am definitely tantalized a bit about the plot and the world expanding. So
they definitely, it expands more, beyond just the main character, beyond just Korea. You get a better sense of like the worldwide world of hunters, and kind of the international dynamics of it. And they fucking rip off Hunter x Hunter a bunch, so that's cool.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes you gotta copy the best to be the best, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are worse things to copy from, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. If you're gonna steal, might as well steal the fucking Chimera Ant arc. That's kind of peak.
Okay, you can look at my homework, but change a couple things.
Yup, they sure did change one or two answers. So I have read the entire Chimera Ant arc in the manhwa, little bit past that. Yeah, so I'm excited, especially for the action it brings and for the accusations of plagiarism.
That's so funny. Now I'm excited just to see like how fucking like close we get to that. That's so funny. The other thing that I'm really glad this series decided to do was kind of drop the whole like, oh, he has to like keep it a secret that he's like not really the weakest guy around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like really glad they're starting to get away from that, because one of my least favorite tropes of how characters interact with him in the entire show is like, cocky guy walks up to him and is like, "You're an E rank, bro? Alright, why are you even on this quest?" That guy proceeds to like get his ass whooped in the dungeon, and then Jinwoo shows up and is like, hold my fucking beer, dude, and then destroys the rest of the dungeon. And then everyone swoons and claps. But we're starting to get away from that now.
You're definitely getting away from that, as he is literally being evaluated as an S rank and kind of informally confirmed as such.
Yeah.
So everyone knows now.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad that's not something that he has to like hold over the entire series.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. I mean, hey, at the rate we're going, who knows? I might like this, but more Sakamoto Days at the end of the season. Who knows?
Certainly looks and sounds fucking incredible every second.
Yeah.
And that's important too, because the manhwa was also gorgeous at all times. Unfortunately, the artist behind it passed away at a very young age.
I was curious about that
story. Yeah,
is it just gonna indefinite hiatus kind of be done?
I don't know. He might have finished it, because I know the original like web novels are done.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not sure if he finished drawing the manhwa or if a different artist took over or if it's on hiatus. But yeah, it was definitely very beautiful artwork all the way through, and yeah, the action just was begging for this kind of anime treatment. So I'm glad that at least he got it.
At least, yeah, at least one of them got it.
Yeah, and the manhwa is full color too. So
Yeah.
that was another thing where it's like, yeah, it really pops. You really want to get this the best treatment possible.
Well, my anime list lists it as completed. It says
Okay.
final published date of May 31st, 2023. So I guess we have a complete story to go through. So that's fun.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm probably like maybe a little past what this season will cover. I'm not quite sure. I haven't read for a bit. I'm definitely well behind like the English release.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some good stuff to come.
So it's not going to be Chimera Ant length. It's kind of got to be like Sparks Notes.
Yeah, it's much shorter than actual Chimera Ant.
Okay.
Yeah.
No Fear Shakespeare Chimera Ant arc.
Just the highlights.
Asking ChatGPT what happened in Chimera Ant.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And then just writing that down in your weekly show, your weekly manhwa. Just that's right, that's good.
Yep.
I will say, I am also interested to see how his power develops, just because I really didn't expect him to do like the almost like sorcerer necromancer route at the end of the first season.
He also didn't expect that.
That's true. It was a very big curveball for everybody. And it seems like a very convenient power for like an over-leveled character that can kind of just like, you defeat an enemy, take it as his own, and they can do like tasks for him. It seems very plot convenient, but I mean, it does make for some really cool fights as well. Now that he fought that knight, and it's like, why would we get rid of such a cool character model? Let's let him fight every time.
Exactly.
So I am interested to see how it keeps going, because he already feels OP, but like everyone he faces is like, oh, this guy's much stronger than me. I'm gonna have to do something else to beat him, and it's like, okay, we're power leveling out the ass real fast. So
yes. Solo leveling even.
Fair.
But yeah, I appreciate that. He still has to struggle in some way every time. And he sometimes fails to, necromance them, which is good to see because he doesn't succeed all the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, he has to ultimately win all the time, or else he'll actually die. But yeah, he has his struggles. He fails his missions sometimes. He gets his penalties. So yeah, I appreciate his progression and the fact that most cool enemies that we fight we're going to get to see as a cool dark shadow ally is a nice touch as well.
Yeah, it is nice that the system that's kind of given him this OP power, there are constraints and mysteries to how it works that like it's not like he's getting catered to at every turn, which is nice. I do like that there's still some ambiguity to how exactly this is happening to him and why. So
yeah, and he's always piecing new things together, like, oh, okay, so the system works like this. Oh, it gave me this power. Oh, is that why this thing happens? So yeah, lots of mystery around that.
Yeah,
definitely curious to see how that plays out.
I do think it's still so funny to me, like when they get locked in that red gate and they're in this like snow land. He's like, oh, don't worry everyone, I have like parkas for everybody. You can set up a little camp right here. You just sit here. I'm gonna go defeat the dungeon.
Yeah, when the high rank guy comes over, when his whole fucking team got wiped out, he just sees them all like picnicking in comfort. He just gets so pissed off. Yeah, that was a really funny moment.
That was a good bit. I'll give it that. yeah, I'm not a hater. I'm enjoying the show. I talked more praise about this than I did of Sakamoto
I was
Days.
just gonna say that. Yeah, you
So,
said nothing but negative things about Sakamoto Days, and then almost all positive things about Solo Leveling. So I'll take it.
yeah.
Well, Sakamoto Days is gonna get there.
It will,
It'll rev up.
Yes. Sakamoto's just the tortoise. Jinwoo's the hare.
Yes,
We all know how this ends.
exactly.
All right. Well, as Bran, you mentioned earlier, we do have one more Punch Kick show. We can touch on a bit here, and then, time permitting, if anybody wanted to throw in a couple little bonus picks or opinions, since we have a decent little chunk here. We do want to talk a little bit about Dragon Ball Daima, since it's something that three of us are watching here and is still going.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have which is why we put on the end of the list here. Don't really have like a ton to say about it, other than it's still good. It's got a lot of I think great action pieces in these last couple episodes. Like the gunfight was cool as shit. Like I wasn't expecting a weird gunfight with Glorio and Pansy, and then all the people who can do ki blast shooting ki blasts out, and then at one point you had Pansy like dual wielding pistols and shit. Like I thought that was a very cool little like, hey, everybody's doing something moment, which Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z and all that isn't always the best at, because it's so quick to just be like, Goku will fix it all. But in this one, it was, no, everyone's showing up and they're shooting rockets and Goku's punching people and the Piccolo's there.
And I'm here.
Yep, and he's there.
Yeah. I feel like for me right now, Daima is just it's just like a breath of fresh air from, obviously, I've talked at length previously that I'm not like a huge fan of Super. And I think it's great that a show like this is going back to, and even exploring further than Dragon Ball ever has, like just like the weird shit going on in this world. And as the deeper they dive into these demon realms, the more crazy stuff we're seeing, where it's like, how do these even fit on like all these power scalers that love talking about power scaling in Dragon Ball? How do you even start talking about this race of giants that are just so enormous that like all of them have to band together to just not get like crushed by a child?
Yeah.
Or like
and
their
then the
pet
other
dog.
planet with even bigger people.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I was like, wow, they're cooking right now with this world building. But yeah, I feel like it's so weird too talking in like the current landscape of this show, because some people feel that this is just fluff. Like we gotta get to the part where he's fighting the big bad, and we're fighting for the other Dragon Ball, and it's like, what are you not enjoying about what's happening? Because that fight with the giant and the dog looked amazing. Like, really, really solid animation and composition, colors and sound. Like, I feel like Daima is just really just like solid all around.
Yeah. I love Goku falling into a book bag and then Super Saiyan and blowing all the books out of the book bag.
Yes.
I was like, oh, this is really fun. This is like a really creative, way for him to get out of like a trap. He falls into a book bag, and then the only way to get out is to basically explode all of the books. I was like, oh, that's a lot of fun. Something you definitely wouldn't expect to see. And then like them Vegeta and Piccolo distracting the dog by just flying around it in the background constantly, so you just see this dog like going insane with all these little colorful streaks around its head, and of course Goku doing his thing. Yeah, I definitely mirror your opinion there, Bran. Like, I know that you want to get to the big bad so you can have a Goku and Vegeta versus Majin Buu or whatever, and you can get your Dragon Ball Z fix from these long drawn out one-on-one fights with power levels and from changes and things. But man, some of these other like just little insular battles and gunfights and stuff that they do are just so cool.
Yeah.
Like I like them a lot. Like I wouldn't mind if they just did that for a while.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm in no rush for them to get on with it. Like, especially because I don't feel like the main villains right now are even really a threat yet. Like,
Not really, no.
and I love that because I feel like every character on the enemy side they've introduced so far are just super charming. Because both Ku and Du are just like silly little kids, basically, that are super powerful and smart, but just they're children. And I love that they introduced this like B-level Ginyu force that will just like shoot up the place, and are just like a bunch of goofballs.
Yeah, and then they buy Ku and do some chocolate, and then they're like, grow big and strong like us. And I'm like, okay.
No, yeah, it's just like super silly right now, and like I don't need it to be anything else because it's very entertaining as it is.
Castro, what do you think?
Yeah, that's all right.
Why do you hate this show?
Yeah, why do you hate this show?
Why do you hate this show?
I do hate the show. No, I don't know. I just find myself struggling to care about it every week. I enjoyed the charm of kind of classic Dragon Ball early on, but I don't know, it wore thin eventually, and I still appreciate how good it looks all the time, especially, after much of Super and after the direction that Superhero went in. So I appreciate all that about it. I kind of expressed my, misgivings about it in the last episode where we talked about the season, the previous season.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think all of that still pretty much stands. I'll note that it has been heavily rumored in multiple places to end at episode 20, and tomorrow is episode 16. So if that's the case, we do not have a lot left. So I'm definitely curious to see how it goes, if that is true at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, they've got a decent amount of stuff to cover yet.
Yeah, because it seems like they've been kind of just going at a slow little pace all the while. So it does not feel like something they're planning to wrap up in 5 episodes, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think I recall seeing those rumors as well, but I didn't bother to do any research into like corroborating them or anything like that. Plus 20 is such a weird number.
It is unusual, yeah, but yeah, several like licenses have marked it as a 20 episode series. So we'll see in a month if it is no longer running.
For real. I mean, just based on the tone of the show so far, I can see them kind of making it like an anticlimax because, like I said, the villains don't really at all feel that threatening. And maybe this is just like a precursor for like a new Dragon Ball thing after this, or like maybe Daima really was just kind of like a tester, little test tube, like figuring out like do people want this? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that information because it has been going at a brisk Toei-esque pace.
You're right, yeah.
So
they're like, we got all the time in the world. Does not feel like a 20 episode series.
No.
Feels like we're in year 1 of Dragon Ball Daima.
Yeah. All right.
I mean,
well, yeah.
Granted, all the Dragon Balls are generally in the same central location now. So they don't have to worry about that anymore, I believe, because they have 2, and then Majin Ku and do have the 3rd one, and then the 4th one is just in the castle itself. And I think that's it. So at least that part of the story I could see wrapping up pretty quickly, because, there's nowhere else for the Dragon Balls to go. You just gotta get the other 2 so they can make their wish. But yeah, some of the other stuff, like the battle with Ku and Du, and then whatever Goma and Supreme Kai's cousin, whose name I can't remember.
That Dagesu?
Yeah, Dagesu. Whatever they have cooking up with this like B squad Ginyu force. So yeah, we'll see. But that did surprise me that the rumors there. So yeah, I guess we'll just have to either hope that they're not true or there's some master plan that wraps this up well enough to be satisfying. I can't see a perfect ending in essentially 5 episodes.
Right. Hard
but
to
satisfying enough.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, overall still really enjoying it. But yeah, I can understand people's problems with the pacing and stuff still, especially for folks who are so used to Super and things like that. This is
it would it would be wild if it was, planned to be 20 episodes from the beginning and this is the pace that it's going at.
Yeah. I guess by our next episode we'll have an answer.
Probably. With the rate that we record, yeah.
I was gonna say it wouldn't be out of the ordinary that like tonight or tomorrow after we're done recording they like officially announce its episode how much it's running.
I can guarantee you by the time this episode is released, this will all have been invalidated and everyone will know and they'll be like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? We know that it's
Maybe it'll be 20 episodes and then like an OVA that nobody's talked about yet.
Or movie,
a little movie thing.
Yeah, because Super had 2 sequel movies.
Yeah, or one of those 50-minute ones or something like that.
Yeah,
that doesn't count as an episode. I could see that happening. That wouldn't blow my socks off or anything.
I mean, Toei loves giving Dragon Ball movies, so would not be surprised.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see because it's always weird how like Dragon Ball is like the biggest thing and it's always so last minute that we learn about like, oh, Super is ending, oh, Super is beginning. That was announced like a week before. Like, oh, by the way, there's a new Dragon Ball TV series for the first time in like 20 years. It's airing tomorrow. And yeah, just the ending of each series just come out of nowhere as well. So very bizarre.
Indeed. Well, I think that about wraps up the shows that we had planned on talking about a little bit here at the hour and a half mark, so not too shabby there. Was there anything you guys wanted to touch on a little bit as some bonus content before we move on to recommendations?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention how funny I think it is that I've only watched the first 2 episodes so far, but I read the whole thing. Dr. Stone coming back and the whole premise of like this new season, it's like, all right, we have our mission. We're gonna make it to the moon and we're gonna like sail across the world and like go to America and like repopulate the earth. Like they got all these like huge ambitions for this new season. And the first episode is like, we're going to teach you the science of how to cheat at gambling. And then the second episode is like, we're going to make cocktails. Like, it's just so silly.
We're going to find corn.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny because I've been eagerly and also kind of anxiety anticipating this season because this is when the series really starts to like jump the shark in terms of scientific improvements and like how quickly they advance their society thing going on. So it's just very funny to me. Like the first 2 episodes, they basically got nothing done besides sailing to America. But yeah, it's still really fun. So I'm glad Dr. Stone is back.
I didn't think about this until just now, but of the 4 Shonen Jump manga adaptations airing this season, 3 of them are by TMS.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Blue Box is like their sub-studio, but yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Dr. Stone I have not read, so it is definitely funny to watch them come to America and talk about American things from a very non-American perspective.
Yeah.
That's always a good time, especially since it's specifically California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of fun generalizations that are going to be made.
Absolutely, which I live for that.
Yeah.
I love Japanese overgeneralizations of Americans.
Yes.
It gives me life.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one should be high on the list by the end of the season, I am assuming.
I'll also mention that we got a brief little link click kind of prequel. It's mostly a prequel, but it's kind of a time travel-ish show, so it's kind of a sequel.
Whoa.
But yeah, that show is always good and definitely doesn't get enough recognition. So this is just a little 6-episode kind of interlude. I don't think it's really a proper season 3 per se. But it gives some interesting perspective into kind of the background of how this premise all started. And yeah, it knows how to hit hard when it wants to. And the final episode is airing in like 2 hours. So looking forward to that.
This one definitely popped on my radar like well after it first aired, so I definitely want to watch this at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we've got a few of the big, I think probably like the 3 big Chinese shows that have been talked about are all available on Crunchyroll now. The other 2 are both like novel adaptations from the same original author, which is Heaven Official's Blessing, and then they just added, let's see, what did Crunchyroll call it? This show has like 5 different official translation titles. They called it The Master of Diabolism, or Diabolism, however you pronounce it. So they just added all 3 seasons of that. So yeah, we're pretty well covered on the 3 big like Chinese co-productions. Link Click is an original, and it's got a higher percentage of like Japanese anime veterans working on it. All 3 of them do to some extent, but the percentage is definitely, I think, highest on Link Click. So yeah, definitely worth checking out if you're interested in any Chinese animation.
Okay.
Yeah, I've mentioned it to you guys, but I'm kind of, after I made that My Anime List account and realized how much mediocre fucking anime I've watched over the past 25 years, I decided to up my standards a bit for anime and kind of match my standards for other media and not just watch so much just because it happens to be anime. So because of that, I'm down to an all-time record low of only 12 series right now.
A paltry sum.
Yeah, Link Click's gonna end in a couple hours. ReZero's gonna come back in a couple weeks, so that'll balance back out. Hopefully, this will continue to decrease in number each subsequent season, as long as things don't deserve to be on there. So as a result, Sakamoto Days is literally the only new series this season that isn't a sequel that I picked up. So, yep.
It's a start, but I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Like, I went back through my history because, I put off making a My Anime List account for like 15 plus years of people telling me that I should. I was like, no, it's going to be too hard to remember everything that I watched. And then, of course, in those 15 years, I watched infinitely more than I had ever watched before.
That backlogging sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, so like I went through all my old forum posts every season, and a lot of these were like 50 shows that I watched at least like 3 to 5 episodes of every single one of them. And yeah, a lot of them were very bad. So yeah, I'm glad to have, Dragonball Daima and Sakamoto Days as the lowest tier that I'll entertain at this point.
Nice.
It's a nice place to be.
Yep.
Not trying to dox you, but what's your mal name, pal?
It is Full Metal Freerin.
Beautiful.
Yep.
R.I.P. Kioma.
I know. Well, once Freerin moved up to the top, I'm like, well, Brotherhood and Steins Gate aren't my 1 and 2 anymore, so I gotta make a new name for my new 1 and 2. Like I said last time, I'm real good at keeping consistent screen names. I think every account that I've ever had on the internet has a different screen name.
Nice.
Yep.
I'm the exact opposite.
That's good. Consistency is good. I just can never commit.
Beautiful.
Alrighty. I wish I had something for bonus content to recommend, but the other shows I'm watching are just not great. So yeah, they're not terrible either. They're both solidly at this point like C pluses, where it's like I'm not hate watching them or regretting the time doing so, but they're just not really doing a whole lot for me. And if anything, I'll keep watching them as long as they don't outright anger me, so that I have shows for my top 10 that I can easily take off the list at the end of the year.
Nice. Yeah, pretty light season for all of us.
Yeah.
Seems like.
Yeah, I was thinking of taking the time to maybe watch my like Planets Blu-ray or something.
Yeah.
Just kind of go back to some of those.
Speaking of that, I think they announced they're going to do an oversized Planet. It's still going to be like a 2, but they're going to be like the oversized, I assume, kind of like those Triguns and Vinland ones.
Yeah, definitely.
The big like hardcovers.
Just confirmed that today after it was leaked yesterday. Yep. 2 nice big fancy hardcovers of the Planetes manga.
Oh, nice.
So I will be rebuying that just like I'm rebuying Vinland Saga.
That's perfect because my volume 1 had a misprint where like the bottom, like half an inch was just like cut off. So like I've been meaning to like get a new volume 1, but guess I'm waiting now for big old deluxe.
Ooh, that's a collector's item now.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Special misprint edition.
Alrighty. Kate, is Apothecary all you're watching for this season?
Moment is the only thing consistently I'm watching. I will catch up on Dr. Stone, so at least I'll have that to talk about too, but I've been tasting some other shows. I tasted the what do you call it?
What an odd word.
Tasted.
I just see Mao Mao doing the poison tasting as Kate doing tasting of all the shitty anime this season.
And the Guild Receptionist show, I watched the first episode of in English. It looks nice. Is there anything going on underneath the hood? I have very little confidence that there is, because it's just generic fantasy world modeled like a video game. And
yeah, you're not wrong. I'm watching that one.
Yeah. And I don't know, there's some tacky romance show that probably has animation like a slideshow that I wanted to look at and see what the situation there is, but I haven't checked it out yet. And yeah, that's all I've got for the moment.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
Well, then I think
if anyone's looking for deep cuts for the hidden gems of the season, this crew does not have it.
No, not at the moment. Well, that's assuming there even are any.
Yeah.
Not a guaranteed.
Nope.
I heard that Mappa show might be interesting, and it's literally about like an animator like overworking or some shit. So I'm like, ooh.
A Mappa original. Yeah, I heard it was a very bait and switch premiere, and people did not get what they expected. And some people loved that, and some people hated that. So it does seem to be an interesting point of controversy if you want something a little different to look into.
Yeah.
It's called Zenshu.
Oh, is that the one with like the animator gets isekai'd, but
I think that's,
not really?
Yeah, I think that's how it ends up.
Yeah, where it's like she gets isekai'd into her favorite manga or something to learn how to do romance. I'm probably butchering that shit, but I remember
I don't know. No,
I remember reading the
disclaimer: none of us
description.
have watched this.
Yeah.
I remember reading the description on Live Anime, which is what I use to see what's going on in any particular season, and that's what it said. And I was like, "Oh, you lost me at the isekai into favorite manga part."
Hmm.
But maybe it turns into one of those gems. Who knows? A bait and switch, like Kestra was saying, could be good. Flipping paradigms.
Could be.
But all right, I think we can move into some recommendation territory here and wrap up the evening. Does anybody have any off the top of their head, or I'll just swing it on over to Kestrel and put him on the spot immediately?
Don't you worry. I knew that I would have enough recommendations that I wrote them down for the first time ever. Actually, that's not
Wow.
true. I put them in the chat a few episodes ago because I had even more. But I think I have something from just about every category that I recommend stuff from. So for streaming anime, I mean, I mentioned briefly they just added that last Chinese show. So check that out if you're into that. It has lots of boys being very pretty and very gay.
Yes.
But not like really gay, right? Because China, so they're just like really good friends. But yeah, in terms of some classic anime added to streaming services, I mentioned previously Tomorrow's Joe. Both series are on Crunchyroll, and you can go right into that, which I have now finally started to watch, and go into the latter two seasons of Hajime no Ippo, which the last one did get a simulcast back in 2013, but the middle season, New Challenger, has never been officially available in English. So Netflix now has all three seasons of that series. Very exciting. Hopefully Discotheque gets the latter two seasons eventually as well. I don't know if Netflix getting them makes that more complicated. But yeah, very excited to watch all of Joe and watch all of Ippo as well. And both of those sequel seasons do have music by friend of the show Yoshihisa Hirano. So
Woo.
if you need your Hirano fix after your Hunter x Hunters and your Death Notes, check out some boxing.
Okay.
For anime on Blu-ray, as I mentioned, Apothecary Diaries Season 1 Part 1 Blu-ray is en route to me. Also, The Dangers in My Heart Season 2, which was my number 3, I want to say, of last year's anime. Both of those were released this week, so definitely recommend those two. We were talking about fancy new editions of manga. Obviously, the Planetus one was just announced like today, so won't be getting that for a little bit. Also, a fancy re-release of the Nana manga was announced recently by Viz, so be getting that eventually. But I think this week or in the recent or upcoming couple weeks, we got the first volume of the Vagabond Definitive Edition, which is absolutely one of the greatest manga of all time. So highly recommend checking that out. And as I said, when this was first announced, Viz, please re-release the art books so I don't have to spend my life saving on eBay for 2 art books.
Oof.
For some non-Weeby TV, Severance is back for its second season. We're going to be 3 episodes in actually we are now. So third episode just came out, and that is a pretty essential television of our time, I would say. So, especially if you work in the corporate world, I think you kind of have to watch Severance, but it's just kind of a really clever, fascinating suspense thriller anyway. And as for some non-Weeby movies in theaters, so I've been working my way through all the Best Picture nominees this year, almost through them all, and some of them are kind of middle of the road, some of them are quite bad. But I'm Still Here is fucking incredible. So that is by far my highest recommendation of the batch that I've gotten through so far. And that is, I think, is in limited theaters in major cities right now, and I think is getting a wider release soon, if not already. So it probably won't win Best Picture, but I highly recommend everyone watch it.
Does the substance fall into your really bad category or no?
No, the really bad category is just Amelia Perez.
Okay, nice. That's what I was hoping.
Now, the substance was very, very clever as a social satire. I felt like it didn't need to get that over the top with the disgusting body horror, but it certainly knew what it was doing. Yeah. Video games, I can only recommend one video game because I've only recommended one video game or played one video game in the past year. And I recommended it a year ago. But now that I finally finished it a year later, I can confirm that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is good. And you should play it. And it is now available on PC as well if you prefer that over PS5.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, it's all you got, but I think that's that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, I had a lot.
I plan on starting Severance soon. I just finished The Wire, and I was like, "What's the next thing?"
Hell
and I was like, "Okay, Severance seems like the show of right now that I need to want to be caught up with when people are talking about it."
Yeah, I didn't really have much in the barrel here either, other than recommending once again people play Indiana Jones and the Great Circle if you can, because that's still really fucking good.
Punching Nazis only getting more and more relevant by the day.
Seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also a game I just finished called Nine Souls, which is really good as well. That came out late last year, if not early this year, beginning of the month.
It came out a while ago on Steam.
Ah, okay, because I played it on Game Pass.
Yeah, and recently November on consoles.
That game looks fun.
Yeah, it's really good. It's
game
like
is
a
hard.
Metroid. Yeah, it's difficult. It's a Metroidvania with some like Sekiro parry based combat stuff going on. I mean, granted, you could dodge too, but a lot of the game is based off of you parrying, if at all possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are my two things, other than the shows that we've talked about that I like, obviously.
In terms of games, I have an inkling of wanting to play this new Dynasty Warriors game.
Origin or whatever it's called?
Yeah. As someone who played so much Dynasty Warriors 4 when I was younger, I really the series definitely fell off for me for a while, but might be time to get back on the horse.
Yeah, there's a part of me that's a little curious about it, especially if it's going to try and mix up the formula at least a little bit, because at the end of the day, every Dynasty Warriors game is a Musou beat 'em up.
Yeah.
And you can only play like the Yellow Turban Rebellion so many times.
Oh, they're definitely still there.
Yeah.
Still rebelling.
So it's kind of nice that
don't worry, lots of other franchises have reskinned it with their characters.
Yeah, that's true. So any attempt they make to mix that up a bit, I think, is something worth at least investigating. I know everybody has their opinions on which Dynasty Warriors games were good and bad and the best, and a lot of them tend to skew more back towards that 4 or 5 era. Just because that was when it felt kind of the most distilled into its purest form, and then they just got kind of bigger and more bloated as years went on. So we'll see if maybe them doing like a prequel-esque origin story is going to do anything to mix that up. Kate, anything from you?
If you want a Metroidvania style video game that's not quite as hard as Nine Souls, Ender Magnolias just came out. It's a pseudo sequel to Ender Lilies, which is another cool Metroidvania-esque game. And there is also Citizen Sleeper number 2 is coming out. It will be out by the time I get this edited and uploaded. So check that out. That's already gotten some great reviews out there for that, and the first game was awesome. So if you like something that's sort of like a visual novel, but more like playing slightly more simple dice campaign RPG sort of thing, check that out. Very sci-fi, very, very interesting. And what else? I don't know. I play a million video games, so I'm playing like a million video games right now. Eternal Strands is kind of cool. I'm kind of digging it. It's on Game Pass. Check it out. You don't have to pay money for that one if you've got Game Pass. You can just check it out.
Oh, Ninja Gaiden Black. I've been thinking about wanting to get on that.
The second one they just released.
Remake of number 2. Yeah. That looked cool.
That's out there. There's a lot of stuff out there. Check out some video games. A lot of good shit. Oh my god, the root trees are dead. Go play the root trees are dead. That's amazing.
I wonder what my one video game of the next year or two will be.
Kestrel has to be very, very picky about the one video game because that's all he gets.
I mean, it's true. I have a lot of higher priorities. I took a lot of months off throughout playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I still put in over 100 hours. So, yeah.
That's how I feel. I'm like, I've been getting badgered by friends for so long. Be like, play Persona 5, play Red Dead 2, play all these like giant, like life-changing games. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And then I gave myself enough time to be like, I'll play a match or two of Marvel's Rivals with my friends tonight. And that's all the gaming I get.
Those ones are always big.
I have hundreds of episodes of boxing anime to catch up on, guys. I don't have time for video games.
Just watch those at 1.75 speed.
Oh my god. Yeah, just watch them in the background while I'm playing on my phone.
Yeah, just watch them on your phone while you're playing games.
Watch Punch and Kick Guy while you press Punch and Kick Guy buttons.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll work out perfectly fine for you. Alrighty. Well, I think it's about time we wrap things up for the evening. So, Kestrel, why don't you tell everybody where they can find us and where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find us anywhere you find podcasts. We are Fandom Post Radio on all your podcatchers of choice. Subscribe, rate, and review on any service you find us on. Those include Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. What else we got? Amazon, Alexa, Facebook, all those platforms. Yeah, Amazon Music. And fandompost.com. You can find the episodes posted there as well. You can find us on social media at Fandom Post Radio, on Twitter and Facebook and Blue Sky. I guess that's fandompostradio.bisky.social. We're big fans of Bisky from Hunter x Hunter. And yeah, I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky as Fullmetal Kyoma, as mentioned previously. And I think I'm just kestrelswift.bisky on our Bisky app. And yeah, I guess if you want to find us on, if you want to find me on my anime list, then as I said before, I'm Fullmetal Freerun on there because I'm very good with name consistency.
I am Hellshake Brando on all of the social places, and I'm not being very social on them recently, so yeah, I'm right here.
Kate, how about you?
I am on Blue Sky at the same thing I'm always at, which is at Sonic Bug. And yeah, all my stuff's on Fandom Post. Go read whatever it is I am reviewing, which is mostly Apothecary Diaries at the moment. But go check that out.
Kate, with that consistency.
I'm so
day in and day out.
Had the same screen name since '94.
Whew. Yeesh.
I mean, I think that's legitimately impressive, but yeah.
Yeah, were we all alive then?
I was.
Yeah.
I have my real name since '94. Yeah.
There you go. Nice.
Alrighty, and as usual, you can only find me right here. So no socials.
Kane was on what the fuck's that app called? TikTok for the one day that it was banned.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But now it's back, so it's not even cool anymore. So
yeah,
Kane left.
No, yeah, I don't want to be a part of anything that the crowd is doing. Fuck that.
Kane went to China for one day to get a TikTok account and then deleted it.
Yes.
Yeah, I only want to be on dying platforms. All right, well, thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully you enjoy your seasons. couple good things out there. I'm sure everybody has their favorites and stuff, but definitely check out Apothecary Diaries and stuff if you haven't already. And we will talk to you next time.
See ya.
Bye bye.